Hey everyone, I thought that I would quickly make a video about fly modifications. I've noticed that that's something that we don't do a whole lot of talking about, but most of us as anglers, and I know especially when I used to guide, have got a bag of tricks when it comes to modifications. So here we go. If you like this video, please give me a like and a subscribe. It really does help to inspire me to keep pushing these out.
I remember a time when I was spoon obsessed, but the spoons I liked came with a hook about 4 sizes too big. I would spend hours replacing them with a pair of split ring pliers in one hand and responsibly sized hooks in the other. That attention to detail served me well when I started fly fishing. See, most store-bought flies are overdressed with heavy materials, often made to appeal to the fly fisherman, not so much the fish. In fact, I spent so much time thinning out excess flash and marabou that I eventually just started tying my own flies. On-the-water situations regularly require further modification of gear we've already tampered with or made ourselves. Common examples include faded colors, loosened wraps, torn-out components, and weakened epoxy. Sometimes our gear may be perfectly constructed, except it's the wrong size or color. I thought I'd go through some tools that you should bring out on the water in case you ever get yourself stuck in one of these situations. So, scissors. You can eye roll if you'd like, but scissors satisfy a multitude of needs. I use them to cut leader and fly line, obviously, but also to alter flies. That said, scissors are not the best tool for all fly or jig modifications. Natural feathers and furs should be shortened or tapered by hand rather than by blade. The tips of natural feathers and furs taper, so cutting them with scissors usually makes their ends blocky and unrealistic, especially when wet. Instead, start by grabbing the natural material at its base and then proceed to make short, jerky tears to rip off the ends. It's always better to remove too little rather than too much, as you can incrementally shorten until you reach your desired length, but you can't put it back on. Some materials won't break by hand, or they stretch out in the process. Tearing flash, for example, leaves a cute curlicue, best suited for Christmas presents and party decor. So scissors are helpful when working with flash, zonker strips, stinger hook material, feather stems, and air-resistant foam, deer hair, or popper heads. Then there's the felt pen. So Sharpies have been my little secret since my early days of fishing. For years I've used them to color, texture, and even to thin out obnoxiously fluffy feathers. It didn't take me long to learn that colored Sharpies work wonders when it comes to adding color to white or hiding undesirable pastels and fluorescence. I use black to add stripes and dots, and red to imitate gills. Nowadays, permanent markers are available in all sorts of colors, and they are a must-have when bringing white popperheads to life. Another note is that I tie almost exclusively with white thread and then use a marker to add color at the head. This is a great trick for tying subtle egg-sucking leeches when you don't have fluorescent materials or beads handy. Taking it one step further, I use Sharpies to help remove plumage from fluffy feathers. The ink acts almost like a burning agent, giving it a sleek appearance like bleach burning and other chemical processes. A felt pen adds very little weight to your pack, and I often find other uses for it on a fishing trip. Flash. I have a love-hate relationship with flash. How much I use depends on the water clarity, time of year, and the species I'm targeting. There are times when I like my fly to parade like a Vegas showgirl, and just as many times when I like it to take on a more organic role. There are a number of ways to approach flash. One approach is to tie in too much of it and then thin it out later. Another is to tie in none or very little and then add it when necessary. My brother-in-law, Steve Morrow, showed me a great trick when we used to guide together. By our 60th consecutive day of working, Stevie was keen to save just about every moment he could, even if it meant stealing it from our tying sessions. His solution was to carry a pack of saltwater mylar in his wader pocket, then simply use an overhand knot to tie a strand of it onto his leader. The water's current made it slide down over the fly, and the fish went crazy for it. It was just way too easy, which is my favorite type of modification. Thread. There's nothing quite as disheartening as a productive fly or jig that unravels as a result of aggressive casting or toothy fish. It's always a good idea to travel with a sewing kit. Sewing kits are one of those lightweight tools you'll wish you had during a moment of need. Thread not only helps fix damaged flies and jigs, it's also an excellent way to add materials to them as well. A simple overhand knot won't hold up to even short periods of fishing, so you'll need to be comfortable whip finishing or half hitching without any tools. Glues, and UV resins. From waders on boats to temporarily stitching up open wounds, I've used super glue to help me get out of some serious trouble. Monofilament. It never hurts to carry a spool of heavy monofilament.
Thick monofilament can come in handy for a multitude of fly modifications, but it's also incredibly helpful for leader butts and bite tippet, obviously.
Weed guards can be tied in at the eye of the hook in single strands or as a loop. They should extend past the hook point, acting as a blockage from aquatic vegetation. I add stinger loops so that I can run an additional hook off the back of a fly or lure. They're great for hooking short striking fish, switching out hook sizes, replacing dull hooks, and adding leverage for fighting fish.
I try to tie in my stinger loops and my weed guards during my initial tying construction, but there are times when I do need to improvise and fix them directly on the water.
I also often replace stinger loop material that has broken or fallen limp.
Monofilament is a great material for this because it's easily accessible and it's affordable, but it's also very slippery. So make sure when you're tying it in that you tie it in and then fold it back and tie it in again as a reinforcement. Worst case scenario, just pull out the glue.
Worm weights and tungsten beads. There's nothing quite as disheartening as showing up for a trip with all of your gear, only to find that it's not heavy enough to get down to the fish. Rather than limit myself to pre-tied flies and jigs, I prefer the flexibility of just adding weight if I need to. A great way to do this is with bullet-shaped worm weights and tungsten beads. I carry a small package of weights in various sink rates and colors. In only a matter of seconds, I'm able to slide a weight down my leader or take it off if I'm touching bottom. It is worth mentioning, however, that when weights are cast repeatedly, they'll eventually wear out a leader. That is easily solved by pushing the weight directly onto the fly or lure, or by inserting a small piece of plastic tubing into the weight itself. I admit that I've had plenty of successful days just lazily slipping on a weight and letting it rub freely on my leader, but I strongly recommend checking your leader for frays or obvious signs of wear and tear. In conclusion, effective anglers anticipate the unexpected and arrive prepared. Creativity is key, but having the necessary tools and accessories allows you to deploy your creativity much more effectively. I hope that helps. If you like this video, please give it a like, maybe even a comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.